Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast with Trey and Lee. Thank you for joining us today.
Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast with Trey and Lee. On this podcast, you'll hear real topics about real life. They cover everything from married sex to raising kids to loving your spouse so much that you're willing to forgive them for occasionally being the most annoying person in the world. Trey and Lee have raised 4 boys, been married over 30 years, and somehow still really like each other. And now, live from the metropolis of Childress, Texas, a place so flat you can watch your dog run away for 3 days. Here are your hosts for the Stronger Marriage Podcast, Trey and Lee Morgan.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us.
We're glad that y'all are here. We're excited to be back. We are podcasting now bi-weekly, every other week, and we're excited to be here and excited to hang out with you. Thank you for listening. We have a lot of new listeners that have been listening. We want to encourage you to subscribe if you do listen through iTunes, through Google, through Spotify, through iHeartMusic, any of those places that you can subscribe through, and then you just get updates each week when we post. And we appreciate you listening.
Yeah, for sure. You got some things you want to talk about upcoming?
Yeah, I always like to do this right at the first.
Yeah.
Ada, Oklahoma, this weekend, we're doing a marriage and family workshop. It's a little bit different than our marriage workshop. It's still just different in the sense that we're going to talk a little bit about parenting and a little bit about families as well as marriage. And so it's good stuff. We're excited about it. This is our second trip to Ada. In a year. And so we're bringing back some new material. And so we're excited about that. And then we're headed out to Casper, Wyoming in the month of March. We're excited about that. And one more, Phoenix, Arizona in April.
Yeah, very good. Kind of all over the map in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
That's true.
So.
A lot of you are following along with the Daily Marriage Challenge book. Thank you for doing that. We love when you tag us in posts that you're reading it, or if you post something online, we would love to hear it. If you get a chance, if you bought your book on Amazon, if you get a chance, we would be absolutely honored if you'd swing by there and leave us a review and a comment. That would bless other people and bless us as well. So
yeah, it really helps other people. I'm a big review reader. When I'm looking to buy something on Amazon, I read reviews because I want to know what other people think. And especially when it comes to books, you can kind of give some insight as to what the content is and help people decide if it's what they're looking for or not. So
yeah, I think that is a good thing.
Yeah,
so if you can do that, that would bless us. Or if you could leave us a review on iTunes, if you listen to this podcast through that, that would be great. That's a way that would bless our little work that we do, and we appreciate that. We do have an official getaway weekend information. Yeah. There's a lot of people that do that. That's kind of a big thing. We usually have a big workshop weekend in the summer, someplace with an airport, because a lot of folks fly in. And it is official that we've been calling it the Dallas Getaway Weekend. It's actually going to be Fort Worth.
Fort Worth.
Yep, going to be the Fort Worth Getaway Weekend. We're excited about it. It will be in Fort Worth, Texas. We're going to be at the Holiday Inn Fort Worth Alliance, and all the info is on our webpage. Costs, you'll need a room unless you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it is a true getaway weekend. There is no childcare. And so we want you to come spend a weekend just being married, having fun, a night in a hotel. Some couples stayed the whole weekend. They stay Friday night and Saturday night. We'll do a Friday night session and a Saturday session and be through sometime Saturday, and then you'll have the rest of your Saturday and Sunday if you want to stay over. But we're excited about it. It will be fun. It will be at a hotel. Getaway Weekend 2023.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yep. So tell us what we're talking today.
So we are talking about things that are killing your sex life. A lot of us feel like our spouses have a lower sex drive than we do, or we may feel like, we have a lower sex drive than our spouse. And we just got to talking the other day that there are so many things that can affect that, whether for good or for bad. And so we just thought we'd go through a few of these because there are things that you can do about every one of these, really.
Yeah. And so if you're in a marriage, our encouragement is if you're in a marriage where you go, maybe you're the high sex drive spouse, and maybe you're thinking, I would love to have this topic with my spouse. Listen to this with your spouse, or send them a link and let them listen. Maybe there's something on here that you go, I wish my spouse was a little bit more. You may be listening and going, hey, listen to this and see if any of these are you that we need to work on, whether it's we're going to talk about stress and busyness and things that are just hard on our sex life when we're married. And if you're the one that's, and I hate to use the word low sex drive, because they may not have a low sex drive. They just may not be as high, lower sex drive than their spouse. That they may go through here and listen and go, hey, that's me. Maybe that's why I'm struggling with the sexual issue right now. And we get this a lot. This is one of the biggest questions we get. Top 5 question we get is a sexual differences issue in marriage. I'm not as interested as I was, or my spouse is not interested where. So here are some things. We're actually going to go through these pretty quick. We've written off about 17 things that could be hurting your sex life that you probably need to go through here and go, am I doing this? Is this something we need to talk about? These are issues that need to come up and be discussed. And it helped us. We actually, Lee and I went through and talked about a bunch of these, which was really good for us to have some communication on these things.
Yeah. So the first one is feeling unappreciated. If you are the spouse that has the higher sex drive and you wish your spouse had a little higher sex drive too, maybe you could improve that by appreciating them more.
Yeah. To make them feel like you appreciate them as a spouse, as a co-parent, if you've got children. But sometimes people who don't feel appreciated in their marriage, like my spouse takes me for granted, or I feel like I do all these things and my spouse never says thank you. It's really hard to feel sexually attracted to when you're feeling like you're really not appreciated in marriage.
Notice the things they do. Point them out and say, I really appreciate how hard you work at keeping the house looking nice and clean and picked up and tidy. Tell them thank you for how hard they work to help contribute to the finances of the family. Yeah. All of those things.
Changing oil in cars, for whatever it is.
Little things.
Just the stuff they always do. Make sure your spouse feels appreciated. We say this all the time. We'll continue to say it. A spouse who feels appreciated will always do more than one that does not.
Yes. So if they're feeling unappreciated, that may be something that's killing your sex life.
Triggering it. Yeah. It's like, why would I want to be intimate with this person that doesn't appreciate me?
Right. So the next one is not being pursued outside the bedroom.
That's true. And this is more of to me, I actually added this one. This is more of men seem to have this issue more than women do. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes men do a really good job at pursuing their spouse on days they want to have sex. Or they pursue them just when the time comes. Hey, it's getting close to bedtime. I wonder if she's interested. What can I do? And so it's like, a wife wants to feel like she's wanted other than just in the bedroom. Pursue her by bringing her coffee during the day. Do little things for your husband or for your wife, but don't just pursue them in the bedroom. Just don't do that only when it's when you're wanting sex. Do that all the time. That's a whole lot better when you can pursue your spouse. There's an old phrase that has been used forever and ever that says, sex begins in the kitchen. And what that means is that when you serve your spouse and you flirt with your spouse and you pursue your spouse in rooms other than just the bedroom, it will bless your marriage. And so don't just pursue your spouse when you're wanting to be sexually intimate.
Right. Pursuit, honestly, in marriage should be 24/7. I mean, just you're constantly letting your spouse know that you value them and that you want them. Whether you have sex that day or not, or even intend to, you still pursue your spouse every day.
Yeah. This morning, I was busy. I was working. I had 100 things going on, and I get a text from my wife, And those are always the ones that I will stop to look at, because if my wife has texted me, I'm going to see what it is. And it was simply a little picture, a little GIF or GIF or whatever it is, little picture of you with a heart in it that said, I love you. And that made my whole morning right there. It was just kind of like, hey, she was thinking about me. That made me feel good. But definitely pursue your spouse other than just in the bedroom. They need that. And I wrote on Facebook the other day on my personal account, challenging husbands. Husbands, your wife likes it when you send flowers and buy sweet things on anniversaries and Valentine's Day. But she'll really, really love it if you'll do those things on random Tuesdays or for no reason Thursdays. Does that make sense? You don't always have to have a reason to do those things. That's a healthy thing when you can pursue your spouse and it's not always in the bedroom or it's not always a special occasion. That's a healthy thing.
No ulterior motives, just simply because you love your spouse.
That's it.
All right, so the next one is not talking about sex.
Ooh, and you know, let's just look at this real quick. I actually have a poll on our Instagram right now, and we're going to pull over here and look at this, that asks, do you talk about sex with your spouse? And if I can find it, I'm clicking over. There it is. 73% said yes, that's healthy.
Good. That's amazing.
Can I just say that the couples with a better sex drive are the couples that talk about sex.
Yeah.
So don't feel afraid to talk about it. 27% on this poll to this point has said, no, we don't talk about sex.
So that's about 1 out of every 4 that are not. And things could improve greatly if there were some conversations about sex. Meaning, if we want to be more specific.
We could talk about everything. I mean, we could talk about everything from what do you like the best to something as simple as thank you for last night. That was fantastic. To something as simple as is this weekend a good time? You know, it's been a couple of days. What about this weekend? Maybe the discussion needs to be of, hey, it's been a while, and could we talk about why? And, you know, for whatever it is, whatever reason it is. So just talking about it keeps it on the forefront of your mind.
Right.
If you never talk about it, y'all may both be thinking, well, they're just not interested.
Yeah. So have conversations.
That's true.
Simple conversations, lengthy conversations, whatever, but have conversations about it. The next one is a biggie. Stress. Stress can definitely kill your sex life.
And that what it will, and we don't want to say kill your sex life, because I know that can happen, but maybe put a damper on things. If you're under a lot of stress, whether male or female, if you're under a lot of stress at work, if you have a new baby in the home, if kids are going every direction, if the house is a wreck and supper hasn't been done, and there's just a lot of stress in one of the spouses or both the spouses' lives, then man, what you're looking at the last thing on my mind is sex tonight, because I am stressed out. And so maybe you need to say, what can I do to relieve some stress? These are conversations that you should be having nearly every day with your spouse of how are you doing, what's going on. Sometimes you and I at nighttime climb into bed. We try to go to bed at the same time, and we talk about things like what's on your schedule tomorrow, how are things going, anything going on. And that's a great time to go, I am just under a lot of stress. And maybe if your spouse says that, maybe you need to say, what are some things I could do to help relieve some stress?
Yeah,
Could I fix supper tomorrow night? Could I be in charge of getting kids in bed? And so those are all important things to do. Bless you.
Ooh, thank you.
Is to stress very well may be lowering your sex drive.
Yeah, and sometimes there are things we can do about that. Sometimes we just have to ride out a season of a stressful situation.
Of a new baby or a toddler.
But communicating about that, that this is temporary and things will get better is something that you can do there. So another thing that could be lowering your sex drive most definitely is menopause.
Yes, and that's a common thing too that we hear as well. Is people talk about my wife has started menopause, or we have wives that go, hey, I'm going through menopause and I just don't feel like I'm meeting my husband's needs. My desire is not where it was. And we have said this before, we'll say it again. There is help for this. Talk to your doctor about this. Don't talk to your doctor about, hey, I'm going through menopause. Specifically say, we are struggling in our sex drive, or my sex drive isn't where it should be. And there are things that your doctor can do to help to balance estrogen levels and things along those lines. And if you're sitting there going, well, hey, why are we talking about women in menopause? We're going to talk about guys in ED and low testosterone in a little bit. Testosterone here in a little bit. But
you got it.
We need to throw this out, because just because you're having some issues with menopause doesn't mean that everything's over. Go talk to your doctor about this. That is such a healthy thing to do.
Yeah, because there's help out there. So don't just think we have to suffer through this and this is the way it's going to be now. Because, there are things that can help. So the next one there on our list is medications. Medications can actually lower your sex drive.
Yes, and actually completely kill your sex drive. What are some of the medications that we know of specifically?
There are beta blockers.
That's a heart issue. If you're on a beta blocker, those are things that you can talk to your doctor about, though.
Right. Blood pressure meds, antidepressants. Now, this is one that you may not have ever thought of, but birth control. Oral birth control can lower your sex drive.
And we've seen this. Yeah. We've talked about it. We've talked to doctors about this. And so if you're a lady out there going, I take an oral birth control, can we just, and if you're going, hey, my sex drive is not what it used to be, can we just say, talk to your doctor about maybe something different? Mm-hmm. Basically, what that pill does, if we can just give you a real simple explanation, is your body during the month will go through a period where it just kind of goes, hey, it's time to have a child, or try to have a child, and I'm going to be in the mood sexually, and your body just kind of goes, hey, this is my natural
Naturally
process.
Does that.
Yes. And when you take a birth control pill, it shuts that down. So all of a sudden your body goes, I have no interest in mating. I have no interest in bearing a child. And so you may need to check with your doctor about birth controls.
Yeah. If that's something that you think, hey, that's could be an easy fix just by trying something different. So the next one there on our list is depression. Yeah. Depression definitely is something that lowers sex drive.
Yeah. Did you cover those two right there?
Yes.
Antidepressants and blood pressures.
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's go on. So let's talk about depression. And again, so many of these, we're going to take the easy road out. If you struggle with depression in your marriage, then or your spouse, encourage talking to a counselor or a therapist or a medical doctor to seek some help. But definitely depression is something that can lower your sex drive.
Mm-hmm. It is. And you've kind of got a double-edged sword there, because antidepressants can lower sex drive. But this is not something that you want to play around with. If you need help in this area, then by all means, find some help. And if it's medication that's going to help you through this, then you need to be taking some medication.
That's it. And we're just trying to point out some facts that you need to know about, maybe some areas that could be causing problems in there.
Sure. And just by knowing, that it could be the medication you're taking, doesn't necessarily mean you have to get off of that medication. It just means, hey, I'm going to have to work a little bit harder to increase my sex drive because, of this other thing. So
yeah, that's a good point.
The next one is tiredness.
Who doesn't sometimes just crash into bed with no energy or anything else for their spouse?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes there's some nights where it's just like, I have nothing to give. I am just exhausted. Let's just go to bed.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of the reason for that ties into the next one, which is busyness.
Yeah.
Our schedules are just jam-packed, and we're busy, and that makes us tired by the end of the day. We're just tired, and we haven't prioritized time together as a couple. We have not prioritized sexual intimacy. We just feel like, we've got to run this rat race, and if there's ever time for that, or if I'm ever not busy, but you can't wait for the perfect opportunities because they just don't present themselves.
If you're two busy or too tired for sex with your spouse all the time, you really need to look over your schedule and figure out what I got to do different.
Yeah.
If you've got your kids involved in 14 things, maybe you need to tell your kids, we're going to back off, we're not going to be involved in 14 things. Or maybe you need to look at your schedule and go, hey, we're going to protect these nights of the week of going, we're not going to do stuff on those nights. But tiredness and busyness, you may have to just reprioritize your schedule because that shouldn't be that way.
And I will say that this is big for women. These are big things that lower sex drive for women. So guys, if you're listening and you're thinking, my wife has a much lower sex drive than I do, help her out more so that she's not so busy and so tired. Find ways to help with the kids more. Find ways to help around the house more. Run errands for her. Ask her what you can do. Just make sure she's not the one that's doing all of the things to take care of the house and the meals and the kids and also working a full-time job, because that will definitely affect your sex life.
Yep. So we talked about this was a big one for women. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about a big one for men that oftentimes cause a lowering of their sex drive, and that is not feeling pursued. Now, we're not talking pursued outside the bed. We're just talking about pursued.
Just desired.
Not feeling
desired. For sure. Men need to feel desired.
And women as well.
Women do too.
Yes,
but yes, but this is a really big one for men. Mm-hmm. Men and women both need to feel desired, but men especially will say, if their wife is never initiating, then they feel like she doesn't find me attractive, she does not want me, and that hugely lowers sex drive.
It does.
Or they will seek to fill their needs somewhere else, which there's never an excuse for that.
No.
But if they're not feeling pursued or desired, that's going to shut things down.
Sometimes what you find is people that maybe they don't feel desired, but they want to feel desired, and they find themselves maybe someone from work that makes them feel that way, and they find more time that they
just attach themselves to
mm-hmm. someone in a really unhealthy situation, because at least this person makes me feel good about myself. That shouldn't be. That should be our job as a spouse to do those things.
Right. So the key here is for both the husband and the wife to initiate sex often.
Yeah, that is true.
It shouldn't just be one that mostly does all the initiating. It should be both initiating.
That is true. Let's skip down right here and talk about getting stuck in a rut.
Mm-hmm. Getting stuck in a rut can lower your sex drive. If you're one, there are personality types that want change. They want difference. They want to feel like it's exciting and new. And if you're doing things the same way every time, it can just feel flat and dull.
Sure.
So.
And you may have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, or let's put it this way, you may go, but I like this. This feels good. Mm-hmm. And you want to do whatever it is that works and feels good, but how do you know there's not something else out there that also feels good that you've never tried? Or sometimes maybe you say, well, we tried this 10 years ago and it didn't feel good, but it might feel good now. So all we're saying is that just trying to change things up a little bit can really spice things up in the bedroom, of not always doing the same things the same way in the same place. It doesn't always have to be the bedroom, change things up a little. That gets kind of exciting.
Sure. And this is going to be one of those things that requires some communication.
Yes.
You can't just read each other's mind. You're going to have to talk about these things. So get out of that rut.
Get out of that rut.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that can definitely lower sex drive is poor health. I think we could probably make those two
different
separate
points.
Things. So we're just going to stop there. Poor health.
So if you're not taking care of your body and you're overweight, that is something that will both you. It can cause you. If I've put on a lot of weight, it can cause me to not be have a big sex drive because my testosterone's lowered. Or you might look at your spouse and go, my spouse has put on a lot of weight, and I'm finding myself a little harder to be attractive. So while that shouldn't be a case, the point is your job is to take care of your body, the one that God gave you. I try hard to look as good as I can for my wife. She tries hard to take care of her body and make it look as good as she can for herself and for her husband. So take care of your body. Don't let poor health come in and cause some problems.
Yeah. And the next one there is poor hygiene. And this can really...
Yeah, this is kind of weird that you'd even have to bring this up, but you hear this all the time from wives.
I hear this from wives a lot that just say, my husband just doesn't really see the need for keeping up his hygiene. And I'm going to say to you guys, to ladies too, it's important to be careful with your hygiene, of course. But you might consider showering before bed, brushing your teeth. Those are some things that can make you attractive
your face. Yeah,
to
all of
your
those
spouse.
Things. Yeah, and as guys, sometimes we work, and if you work in a place where you do manual labor all day long, and to a man, grill smoke and fresh cut grass all smells good, and those are pretty manly smells. But I promise you, a wife would rather you smell like soap and shampoo and toothpaste when you climb into bed with her. So consider, smelling good for your wife.
Yes,
husband.
Keeping up that hygiene is important.
So let's talk to the men for a
Yes.
second. We talked to the ladies about menopause. Another issue is ED, erectile dysfunction, or low testosterone. Now, both of those are two different things. One of them may be caused just because as men age, they don't make as much testosterone. Interesting thing is you make testosterone when you walk, when you exercise, from foods that you eat, but sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, and you just need to go talk to your doctor about low testosterone. That will help your desire. If you have an ED problem, again, go talk to your doctor. Don't be a man who is too proud to go visit with a doctor and just say, my sex life with my spouse isn't what it should be. Go try to make some changes. It can be done.
Yeah.
And I will admit, because I'm not afraid to do it, as a man in his 50s, I have low testosterone and I take testosterone shots. I did not know I had low testosterone, but I knew every night about 6 o'clock I was out of energy. I didn't sleep well. There were just several signs that came on that I thought, what is going on? And the next thing I knew, I went out and had some blood work done. They said, well, your testosterone is really low. So I take testosterone shots, which really help me to feel better, and blesses us as a married couple, not just sexually, but just in life. I have more energy and things work better.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that you weren't too proud to
figure out what's wrong.
Figure that out. Yeah. And that came through just a routine checkup.
It did.
That you did. So guys, if you're listening, routine checkups are good.
They are healthy.
I mean, do it. If it's been several years since you've been to see a doctor, it's time to make an appointment.
Yeah, let's do these last ones. Pornography is hard on your sex life, and it's just not healthy for your marriage. We're not fans of pornography. We think it is a alternative stimulant. We don't think it should be involved in your marriage. This is our opinion. We've talked about physical cheating. We talk about emotional affairs. We also want to be cautious about mental. We want to be very careful that we want to keep our eyes and our mind and our heart set on our spouse and not on a TV screen or a phone screen or something else. And so I think it's interesting. I'll throw this out here and then we'll move on. One of the top 5 reasons for a sexless marriage is pornography. When you get addicted to porn and you quit pursuing your wife or your husband, then all of a sudden you have problems.
Yeah.
So avoid that.
We tend to think of this as a man's problem or issue, but it is affecting more and more women. I didn't look up a statistic and I don't remember, but there are plenty of women out there that are also addicted to pornography. So, if this is something that you struggle with, we have another episode or two that we've done on pornography. That
And if you want to link to that,
past.
let us know.
Yeah.
We've got some podcast episodes on pornography.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this next one. It's a big one.
Yes. So we're going to mention it here, and then, quite honestly, I think we could spend a good deal of time on this one. So we may revisit this one in our next episode.
I think that sounds great.
But we do want to go ahead and mention it because it's pretty big. Not feeling emotionally safe.
That is good.
That can definitely lower your sex drive.
Your marriage should be the place where you feel safe with your spouse.
Absolutely.
It should be, I'm leaving the world, going home. That's my safe place. And if you don't have that and you don't feel like your marriage is your emotionally safe place, it can hurt more than just your sex drive.
Sure.
There's so many things.
And you could throw physically safe in there as well.
Of course.
Physically and emotionally safe. But we will talk more next week on what exactly is emotional safety and why does it affect my sex drive.
Yeah.
So
Sounds good.
So tune back in 2 weeks and we'll
There you go. We know where we're going. Let's look at another one. We got two more we'll cover pretty quick. Letting your children sleep in your bed every night. Now, I think if they show up because they've had a bad dream, or occasionally they come climb in bed with you, or we've mentioned before, there were a lot of times where I'd wake up and I think, where did this kid come from? But if they are every night climbing in your bed, I guarantee you your intimacy isn't as good as what it should be.
Sure.
Be cautious about that.
Sure. We would, our boys, we never made them feel unsafe when it came to bedtime. We would go in their rooms with them. We would lay down in their beds until they fell asleep a lot of nights if they wanted us to stay in there. We always made sure they felt safe. But yeah, we did not let them just come climb in our bed. And if they did ever get up and have a nightmare, every once in a while, fine. Now, we had one of our children when he was about 2 that came and got in bed with us every single night in the middle of the night. And after several weeks, probably, I said, we can't let him keep doing this.
Yeah.
Because I don't sleep well with a little body,
Legs and
elbows and,
and
things in my ribs. And so, I told him, I said, if you want to come and get in, come in our room in the night, if you're feeling like you want to sleep near somebody, I'm going to make this pallet right here next to my bed, and you can come lay down right here. Here's a pallet. I had a pillow there, I had extra blanket, everything was there. But I said, you cannot keep coming and getting in bed with mom and dad because we're not sleeping good when you do that. And he was fine with that. He didn't have to actually be in our bed. He just wanted to be in our presence. And then we realized when he kept doing that, when he continued to do that, that we just needed he and his brother to share a room.
Yeah, moved them in
that
together,
was all
and that's all it
took.
fixed.
His brother was 2 years older, and as soon as we put them in a room together to sleep, he was fine. He quit doing that.
Yep.
So that's all it took. So you might think, what can we do? Is there some solutions out there that would help our children sleep better at night without coming and getting in our bed or starting in our bed? That's the main problem.
Yeah.
Don't let them start in your bed every night.
Well said.
Okay, so
Last one?
that was a little bit more than what we intended.
No, it was good. I like it when you tell stories.
Physical limitations. Physical limitations can lower your sex drive. So we talked about poor health. This could kind of fall under that a little bit, I guess. A lot of people have, physical limitations that keep them from being sexually active or as sexually active as they would like to be. Sometimes there's nothing, sometimes seeing a doctor doesn't help with this. Sometimes it's just something that you're going to have to communicate through. Sometimes you're going to have to find some alternatives to intercourse. But yeah, physical limitations can definitely lower your sex drive.
Yeah. And I think what we're trying to say here is sometimes you can be intimate in other ways than sex, but sometimes you can be sexually intimate in other ways than just intercourse.
Sure.
And so look for some ways to be intimate with your spouse.
And sometimes physical limitations are short term. Maybe you've had a surgery, maybe you've maybe you're very, very pregnant. Maybe you've just had a baby. Some things like that can be short term. There are long term. We understand there are long term physical limitations that we're talking about that you're going to probably really have to find some alternatives here. We also understand that there are some, physical limitations for women that, sex can cause pain. There are some real issues here, and we understand that. And we just ask that you don't suffer through that alone and don't think there's no help. Talk to your doctor about that.
So, reach out, talk to somebody, talk to a counselor, talk to somebody. But yeah, so those are some things that we just wanted to work through that are areas that just sometimes you go, hey, why are we just not connecting? Maybe we've said something that connected with you and you said, this may be something I need to talk to my spouse about. All we're trying to do in our podcast is to get you to think, get you to learn, and get you to communicate with your spouse. And those are all healthy things.
Yeah. And some of these are super easy fixes, like just maybe appreciating your spouse more, telling them thank you, running a vacuum cleaner every once in a while. But yeah, communicate about these things and improve your sex drive.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very good. Have the best sex drive you can or sex life you can as a married couple as long as possible. And once you get to a stage or an age in life where it's no longer possible, you've built a marriage great enough that you're going to find intimacy through other ways and other things, such as dancing in the living room together or just different ways in which you feel intimate with your spouse.
Yeah. Spiritual intimacy. There's all kinds of things, ways you can be intimate together.
That is right. This was fun.
It was.
Thank you all for joining us, and we hope you'll come back again in a couple of weeks. We'll do it again.
Bye, guys.